Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. This is an anime podcast for three nincompoops with delusions of grandeur, watch an anime every 2 weeks and come on this podcast and discuss it. You've probably been here before, but if you haven't, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the anime non-spoilery, then we're going to switch over to spoiler section so you can either decide if you want to watch it and follow along with us if you don't. With that said, we watched the second season of Bungo Stray Dogs. And to talk about it, I need the help of my fellow podcaster hosts. They're here. They're chuckling because this is only like the fourth take of trying to get this intro started. So first off, we have the Caulfield to my catcher in the rye. Jeremy, what you been up to?
I have been playing a lot of Heroes of the Storm. Pull pool party is the best.
Yeah, that's been a fun little event.
I absolutely love that. It's hysterical. Otherwise, not a whole lot. It's been relatively uneventful.
Play Diablo 3. Are you doing the big Necromancer thing? Because that just released too.
I gotta wait a little bit just because it's a full expansion, so I gotta pay for it. If it was a free expansion, I'd be playing it.
Gamer on a budget. That is my life, man. Plus the summer sale. Steam summer sale just hit us all.
Oh, I know. Yes.
The struggle is real.
Yeah. Can't forget Guns of Icarus. I mean, we only really got to play it like once or twice, but.
Which we won.
Oh, we kicked some serious butt because the MMR put us against people of similar skill.
The three other people of similar.
Yeah. Who have never played it before.
We also have the Napoleon to my animal farm. And this is the second time I've made him a pig. Jason, what you been up to?
I am geeking out over Skyrim again because for those that are familiar with the modding community.
We can all just take a 2-minute nap now.
Bruma was released. Northern Cyrodiil looks fantastic. I was actually telling Jeremy I'm going to redo my load order just for this expansion. So it's of course it is, it's not official DLC, but it's obviously going to be better than Skyward Sword. So.
That's not even the Zelda game I got done playing not too long ago. Really whipped on that one.
So how's the LaBeouf to my Transformers, Troy?
I gave you a literary figure. By the way, if you're not getting those references, this anime probably didn't land very well with you. And you put me as Shia LaBeouf in Transformers? Shame on you. That hurts, man. I decided, despite all its flaws, and it's heavily flawed, I'm going all in on Dragon Ball Super. I'm jumping in where it is on the Japanese dub. And which is the Tournament of Power is about to start, and it is ridiculous. It is asinine. It is idiotic, and I'm loving every second of it. It's so dumb. Goku's got a new transformation coming, we think. Frieza is on the good guys team, but he's scheming with the parallel dimension Frieza to kill them. I don't. It's as bad as Jeremy's fanfic that he read.
No, it sounds worse.
But I'm also loving it. So yeah, I've been watching that, and a certain anime that I promised I would stop naming so often was on hiatus for the season break, and that hurt.
Little segue question. How many times have you thrown your controller in Alien Isolation?
Oh, jeez.
We will talk about that next week. I'm not stable enough to. Yeah, we're not ready. I'm not ready. Give me a week, and we'll talk about Alien Isolation. So, with that, let's give our non-spoiler reviews of the second season. Please notice that second season part, guys who are listening and didn't listen to season 1. Second season of Bungo Stray Dogs, or Bungo. We're having pronunciation.
Bungo?
I'm having pronunciation troubles tonight, so I just got to double check with Jeremy everything I say right now. Jeremy, what did you think of this second season?
I really liked it. I definitely agree with what I had heard last time, which was that the second season was better than the first. I don't think it was a ton better in my estimation, but I did certainly like it more. I especially, I think I probably had the most mixed feelings for the first 4 episodes just because of abruptness in certain events. But once things would get rolling in those episodes, it was really good. And then the rest just picked right back up where we left off and carried it to a pretty satisfying conclusion. So I'm happy with it. I recommend it.
Okay, Jason, how about you?
Very similar. Totally recommended it. But actually the first 4 episodes were fantastic. I loved what Troy will describe as the noir feel of them, a little more deeper into investigative type stuff. And also, even though there was its fair share of battle, it didn't feel like a straight up battle anime. It was very much story driven, and the slow burn of Atsushi's character development was just so satisfying. It was great to watch, and definitely recommend it.
So I think the first 4 episodes are a 6 out of 5 Baka. Like Jason said, that noir section it was so sweet and dark and bitter, and I love that kind of stuff. It was a huge departure from where we were, and it was a little jarring at first, especially we just came off the first season, so you jump right back into the second season, and it's like, hey, remember all that stuff we were doing? Don't worry about that. We're going to come back to that later. We're going to do this stuff instead.
Yep. But
I was so into this stuff, I was a little resentful of going back to the modern time stuff. I was like, oh, can I just have a prequel anime of just those characters and watching this mafia dysfunction? It was so good. I think there's a little bit genericness mixed in the middle when we got back into the normal stuff, and especially when we come off of that noir stuff, it's like, oh yeah, let's just have an episode for this reason. But there are a lot of more high points in this season than there were in the last season, and that I think made it really good. For me, the parts are greater than the sum, but those parts were really, really good. So worth a watch. And that wraps up our non-spoiler review. So now you have to decide if you want to watch it, if you haven't already watched it, and if you have already watched it, then why are you even listening to this part? You want to go on to the spoiler part, where we're going to talk about characters, episodes, themes, theories. Anyone have any theories? Yeah, we have some theories. I know what we're going to have theories on. A certain old god and where he came from.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go into the spoiler section. So turn off the podcast if you haven't watched or you care, whatever. You know what to do. Guys, episode 13, we start with that big flashback that we were talking about, with that big story, and we get right in with 3 new main characters, one from the old one. Dazai, we see him back in his Port Mafia days where he is the deadliest assassin they have. He is basically the borderline psychopath that everyone in this mafia is scared of. Let's talk about Dazai back then, and then kind of breach into what do we think about him for the rest of the season? He's kind of the only character that doesn't grow because he's already grown because of this flashback.
One thing I've noticed right off the bat he's holding a drink in this bar, and he's got what looks like more bandages on him than what we've seen in the first season, which is strange. And he seems more suave, yet more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not uncaring, not psychopath, but
Chevalier?
no, when you can't empathize.
Sociopath.
Yes. Almost sociopathic.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would actually have to say that I disagree a little bit in the sense that he doesn't change that much. I understand where you're coming from with it in the sense that his character in the current time is still the same character, so he doesn't really change. But I think that we get this glimpse of him during this time where he's not quite as free-spirited. He's not full of so many jokes. It's almost like he's got this casual attitude of apathy instead of the always over-the-top joking that he uses later for it. And I actually really liked this intro scene because it was such a good setup where he's they're all drinking together. I want to take this picture, and you're going, where are you going with this? Where are you going with this? And then he hits you. He hits you with the big phrase, because one of us is going to die. That was so cool.
He didn't say that. He said, I have a feeling like we're not going to be able to hang out or something after this night. And then because the new character, Oda Saku, who I'll probably just call Oda because U's are hard for me. He says one of us was going to die soon.
Was it him that was narrating that?
Yeah, he was the narrator.
Oh, okay.
Which is where that feel was coming from, and I was loving it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I really like that they took that what's going to become his suicide obsession, and then right now it's a be killed and murdered obsession. Like he wants to fight powerful enemies, so they'll kill him. And we kind of learn a little bit more about his obsession with death, and because he's going to become a good guy later, it changes to suicide. But he's not suicidal yet. He wants to find someone to kill him, which I thought was an interesting twist. As far as the rest of the season, I don't know. I just didn't feel like he was the one who was always 2 steps ahead of everyone. And even at the end, we find out everything that happens is a test run for the real battle later. Like it gave me the sense like I could have won this battle at any point, but I needed to make sure that all my pawns were working at top efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a hard time feeling like he actually growed because he was never actually challenged throughout this anime.
You do have a good point there. It's kind of a shot of a practice game. That does make sense.
Which was one of the things that bugs me about this anime is that there is going to be another season, and this wasn't the end game. This was this seems so serious, but it wasn't to me because the real challenge is coming.
I have mixed feelings about that because I do kind of like the idea that they're going to bring in more than just the Japanese and American authors. I mean, they have such an interesting cast to draw from. It should be very, very fun.
Yeah, I know why you have a special interest in it too. So
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about his drinking buddy that's also in this bar. The narrator of these 4 episodes, Oda Saku. What'd you guys think of him?
I wish he would have stayed around. He was deep. It felt like there was more to tell with his story. But I loved his ability. His ability was only if he was going to suffer harm would he be able to see just a couple seconds in the future what that harm was going to be. So if he was about to be shot, like he would see it just a couple seconds before it, like it would happen in his head, and then he would be able to dodge out of the way.
Yeah.
Because later he'll run into someone that has a very similar ability, and so he'll see himself, all right, I'll dodge to the left, and then he gets shot. And he's like, okay, well, I'll dodge to the right, and he gets shot. And then, oh, well, I'll roll forward. And he gets shot.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But that ability was great. I did love the flaw in it, that if it was like a trap or a slow death, something he couldn't avoid.
Right. If it wouldn't hurt him for longer than those couple seconds, he couldn't see it until it had already happened.
Right. Like the poison.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was confused by this character at first because he seemed to have the trope of like, I'm a good guy caught up in bad things, right? And I wondered, because we're given the impression very early on that this guy is, he won't kill anybody. And so he's very noble. And you also find out about these kids that he's taking care of, right? Financially. And he goes to see them and everything. And so he's got really good motivation behind being in the mafia, presumably to keep enough money to be able to support these kids and whatever else he thinks he needs to do, maybe put them through college. I don't know what his plans are, but surely they would be noble like that. And so I was wondering, why is he choosing this of all the options that he might choose? I mean, obviously there's the point that what's going to get you as much money as quickly, and that's why a lot of people do turn to crime. But the direction the story took made me wonder that. And then later there's a revelation of where he actually came from before he became a noble person. And at that point I was like, okay, it all clicks. It all makes sense. And so I really liked seeing his character develop, even just in what I knew about him, so that my preconceived notions were totally shifted with this character.
Yes, I really love that. I love that he was they even hinted like he could be their most powerful assassin in the group because of that ability he has. And he's great at killing, but because he's refused to kill for so long now, he's become the lowest ranking member in the mafia. He's literally just their errand boy. And I really liked that dichotomy because he's associated with Desai, who's now probably the most powerful, or one of the most powerful, but he's the lowest ranking, and it was a nice dichotomy. And the reason was a little silly, like I decided not to kill anymore because someday I want to be a writer, and I just didn't feel like I could be a good writer if I was murdering people.
No, he didn't feel like he would have the right.
Right. Which it's a very anime thing to say.
Yeah.
Right, but I could totally relate. Like, how can I do these things that are relatable to other people when I've murdered?
Is that like what keeps you from murdering, Jason?
No.
No.
Skyrim. I don't hate it, and I don't want to come off that way. It's just it's almost a little on the superficial side, maybe. But other than that, I love this character, and I mean when I said I wanted a prequel anime focused on this character and Desai running around doing cool stuff.
I actually find myself agreeing, but I think it fits into the other characters' obsessions because really they kind of are obsessions, right? So Odasaku has this obsession, but Atsushi has another obsession, which is to earn the right to live. And Akutagawa has the obsession of to get Desai's praise, right? Like these three characters that were kind of the main characters of season 1 and now season 2 as well they all almost have a arguably superficial motivation. And it's presented as such a deep, complex thing, but it really is super, super simple. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing or that it took away from the anime. Just as long as you're prepared and you're okay to immerse yourself in it going in, it will be pleasant. But upon closer scrutiny, they're a bit simple.
So let's move on to the third character we meet, which is Ongo, who is kind of the MacGuffin at the beginning, but I do really liked how he folded back into the story once the MacGuffin kind of disappeared. So what did you guys think of this accountant for the mafia?
Ongo?
Oh gosh, yes, Ongo.
He felt like almost like the otaku of the group. Just very, just always nervous. But because he was gone for like the first 2 episodes, he was basically captured the first episode or second episode. don't really get a chance to know much about him. He just seems like this guy that wants to be left alone, but he's also reaching out for friendship. So, he's in this group. Why? It's interesting because throughout both first season and second season, Dazai has very few close, what he calls friends for people. Mm-hmm. And he chooses, in the Port Mafia specifically, he doesn't have any other people he considers friends except for Ango and Otasaku. And it's interesting that he would choose Ango as a friend. And I'm not sure what the reason was, but maybe it was due to his, Dazai's, seemingly habit of wanting to save people or make them better. And he saw Ango as kind of that, protected hermit that didn't want socialization.
It's really possible. I definitely agree that Dazai and Otasaku kind of pushed themselves on Ango. I mean, when we get to see the flashback of how the three of them met, or at least how the two of them met Ango, they really wanted the friendship. And I wonder if it was Dazai's machinations at play again, but then maybe not, though, because it does seem like Dazai really didn't know Ango's associations.
Right.
So
it's hard to tell with him.
It's hard to tell.
He's two steps ahead at all times, and
so
you don't know when he figures stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Otherwise, I have to say I totally agree. Ango almost seems to me like a character that is boring simply because he wasn't important. I was never allowed to get close to him,
right,
and to know him. Mm-hmm.
He does show back up later in the series, but he again is just kind of a plot device at that point. Anything he makes Dazai a little bit more interesting in those scenes because he's the guy who knows Dazai's true past. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I agree with the boring. He was a MacGuffin, then he was a plot device. He was a nice contrast, I felt, between Dazai, the romantic, the realist, and there's this kind of this nerd guy who they forced to hang out with them. The scene when they meet him, the flashback of how they meet, and they force him by threatening hugs because he thinks they're so dirty.
Yes.
Make him smell.
That was a good scene. I didn't get that sense before. Like, I don't see how these two scenes connect, how you went to this friendship from that, but it was a good scene.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go through these 4 episodes really quick. If you don't want to watch this anime, I would really recommend these 4 episodes. They are almost self-contained. They're really good. If you like that kind of dark, gritty noir story, this is your bag. This is where you need to check out, I think. I would almost recommend these 4 episodes over the whole seasons.
Treat it like an OVA.
Yeah. And it really had that feel. The intro was slightly different. It changes when we get back to the regular show. This very much felt like an OVA. And they were like, oh, I guess we could just add on the rest of the season to it. That's what it felt like. It's almost the exact same time length. I would be surprised if we found out something later that this was an OVA.
I'm really wondering if we're just ignorant of that.
Yeah. So basically, Angu goes missing.
Angu go.
Oda is put in charge by the head of the mafia, Mori. Mori? Yeah, Mori. He puts him in charge of, hey, I know you're my lowest guy, but I want you to go and find him because he's our accountant and he knows a bunch of our information. Gives him the power to make anyone in the mafia do what he says. Gives him like the certificate. It's like, hey, carte blanche, do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. At the same time, Dazai is dealing with a new super-powered group that is coming to this city, which apparently happens all the time. There are already 2, there's the government and there's this mafia, and then we're going to find out, we know there's also the detective agency. So there's multiple super-powered groups running this city, and apparently other groups just show up and cause chaos, and that's kind of the theme of this entire anime. So there's this group called Mimic, and they're a bunch of former combat superpower guys. The mystery comes down to Oda or Ongo used. Oh my gosh, he is a triple spy.
Yes,
he was working for Mimic, but he was doing it for the Mafia. But he really worked for the government, and had set all this up. Right. That plays out.
You got it.
So when they finally do find him, he runs off with the government. He's like, "Oh no, sorry guys, but I'm not on your side." We see those kids are important because when Oda fights the head of these bad guys, what's his name? Guide? Anyone want to help me? Pronunciations are going to be
Guide. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
You're doing great.
Yeah. Wait till I tell you guys about the next anime. This is
oh, it's gonna be so fun.
Guide. He has the exact same power as Oda, so their powers almost create like a singularity. That's what they call it. They don't cancel each other out, but they like feed into each other, so they're like in this endless time loop together whenever they encounter each other. But basically, Mimic's goal is to die. It reminded me a lot of the Cowboy Bebop movie villain. He had a very similar thing where he was like being a terrorist because he just was a soldier that couldn't die, and it was like, oh, okay, so I'll be a terrorist till someone stops me. So that's kind of what these guys are doing. And even as they get killed, they're like, "Thank you." By the way, our boss is in there. He wants to die too.
Yeah, please don't kill him. Yep.
To get Oda to be motivated to kill them, because he's in, like we say, he doesn't kill. The orphans that he takes care of or pays for to take care of that are very dear to him, they trap them in a car and blow them up in front of him.
Mm-hmm. When that happened, I was absolutely shocked because I was like, okay, season 1, you have the guy lose a leg, grows back immediately. Every time somebody takes an injury, it gets healed. Nobody dies. Lemon Balm Man, he comes out of it just fine. Everybody's fine. Nobody really dies. Nobody important, anyways. And then we get to this episode, and
children murder.
Children murder. Like 5 kids are blown up in a van, and your main character's forced to watch this. And I'm like, this is an anime. That's the feels right there. Like, Taken, right? Something like that, you know?
I assumed they were going to already be dead when that scene started. I'm like, oh, they killed him, but it's going to be off screen. Yeah. This is an anime, and we haven't established that kind of thing. And it's like, nope. Hey, by the way, they're in a car. Boom.
I did not think it was blown up. I thought he was going to be able to leap down there and save them, and then he'd be so angry and he'd go after him, and I'd be like, that's so shallow. But no, they went all the way.
Jason, what do you think of that scene?
Yeah, it was definitely really hit home. Like that, you know, having kids, that's unimaginable pain. Right. And I can totally see how it would fundamentally change Oda and how just life did not really matter to him anymore at that point. Because it was just, I'm going to get my revenge for these kids, and I don't care if it costs me my life. Not, you know, and he starts to, you know, Desai's trying to talk him out of it as much as he can, but he even bumps into Rampo, who like gives him one look and is like, "You're on your way to die. You need to not go." He's like, "No, I know." Yeah. Actually, it was great. He pulled out his glasses and put them on because he's like, "Hey, I'll show you how great this ability is." Then he's like, "Oh God, don't do what you're about to do." Die, man.
But as the final showdown's happening, as he goes and kills this entire mimic group and then faces off with their boss, there's a really interesting scene with Desai and the Port Mafia boss, Mori, where we find that this is all Mori's plan. He invited this group into the city, knowing it would cause the government problems, knowing everything, and it was all to get his hands on that license. Now, in the first season, we saw how important that was when a character came and offered like a ton of money to get the detective agency's license. Mm-hmm. It keeps the government off your back when you hire superheroes. Which, again, this is a weird way that these superhero people live in this society where you have to be licensed to employ them and stuff. There's a deep layer to it that I really like. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and he told this group where the kids were. He's been playing all these strings, and he tells this to Desai, and Desai's like, "Well, let me go save him." And he's like, "No," and Desai's like, "No, I'm going. You're not going to stop me because you don't actually care that much."
It's interesting because I wonder. Since season 1, I've wondered why Desai is such a feared character. Even by this Port Mafia guy, like the Port Mafia guy, like threatens him, but doesn't really act on it. Because, his ability is to nullify others' abilities. Meaning, what else does he have in his arsenal besides good martial arts?
Well, and it's not just martial arts, because we find out his partner is a better martial artist without abilities. Chuya is better than him. That's
right.
Stated.
So it's like, what about, I feel like there's something about Desai that has not been told to the audience yet. Because, it's
gotta be his intelligence, I would think.
Well, and that's the thing, is that everything, most everything either goes Desai's way or falls into his master plan of some kind. But he plays it off like, oh, I haven't been making plans. The only plans I'm making is to commit suicide. Like, so
there's a scene in the future stuff where there's a flashback of him seeing Mori rise into power, and he knows the secret of how Mori ran it. And I thought that was it, because last season I threatened like, oh, I'll reveal all the secrets. I was like, oh, that must be his power over them, is he knows that secret. He knows. But then we find out other characters know that secret, and Mori even states it out loud, like, no, yeah, I did that. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was one other thing that happened with Desai at the very beginning of episode 1 of this season. He shows up and he's got the extra bandages Jason was talking about. One of them's over his eye, and he's got various others. And you find out that the reason is because Mimic had shown up and they were shooting all these guns, and they took out a bunch of Desai's squad members. And he just stood. We got to see it. He just stood in the middle of the machine gun fire, and these are all the wounds he suffered. And really, they didn't put him out of commission. So I almost wonder if there is some kind of ward against death on him or something.
Or he's got some sort of secondary gift.
Yeah. Like, you know how some of them are being revealed to have these special version of their gift? Like we learned Chuya does later. He's got this special version of his gift. It could be something like that. But I definitely think that they're giving us clues and just not enough information to make.
That's interesting what you say about Chuya. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Jeremy, it just broke my heart.
Why?
They're all with the extra super wear tiger form, the extra demonic armor. They're Super Saiyans. They're
Oh, geez, you're right. Oh, you're totally right.
I don't understand why everyone's sad.
They did the transformation.
It's just a transformation.
It's another episode of DBZ Super.
No. Oh, what was that? It's the Kamega Kill. It's their trump card.
Yeah, but that's the problem, is that it's tropey.
Yes, but yeah.
This entire anime is a trope with literary references. I
do have to confess, though, that I really liked the transformation scenes.
So did I.
Goofy though they may be.
Hey, Goku may look dumb as a Super Saiyan 3, but his first transformation is still epic. That guy passed out doing that dub.
Dude, wouldn't it be amazing if he did this transformation that made him look like regular Goku, though? Like, oh, wow.
Okay, we're turning off your mic today. So let's get at the end of these 4 episodes. Desai comes when after Oda has been shot, and Oda's quoting, books, and he's quoting what the bad guy's been telling him, and he tells Desai, "You don't care about good or evil. You don't care about any of this. So why not just be good because it's a little bit better?" And Desai's like, "Okay." It's true. I don't care. I'm not good. I'm not evil. I'm completely bored with life. So I guess I will help people. And he quits the
bandages.
Yep, his bandage comes off on his face. He goes to the Secretary of Defense. Something of
Yeah, because it was a government guy.
So Desai goes to this minister, and the minister tells him, "Look, I've seen your criminal list. You can't just become a good guy. Go hide for 2 years, and there's someone who I know might be able to help you." Which is, hey, it's going to be the superhero agency.
So I didn't get as much time to research these characters as I had last time.
You don't have to. I know most of these villains.
You do, don't you? But I did learn a little bit about Odasaku. And really
I'm glad you did.
Huh?
I'm glad you did.
Yeah. The only really, really important thing that I caught in what I was researching was the relationship between Odasaku and Desai. They actually were friends in real life, and Desai actually gave Odasaku's eulogy, and it was really emotionally charged, and he actually pointed at the critics who had made disparaging remarks of some kind against Odasaku's works, saying it's your guys' fault he died, when in reality, Odasaku died because of a lung hemorrhage in the hospital that was probably not related to reading his negative reviews from those critics. So probably more likely it was tuberculosis.
Yeah, so, but that's so great thematically of how that fits in.
Exactly. And so I could see them like weaving this as, Desai had such a strong emotional attachment and fondness for Odasaku and his works that he would pick up that torch when Odasaku fell and could no longer be the noble person. He would be able to come in and pick it up and say, just because you did this and I respect you so much and I care about you as a person, I want to make sure that this goes on. I will be that person. And I actually like to think of it that way as his reason for deciding to go good. It gives him a little bit more deeper motivation.
I really, really like that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Based on seeing all these, because all the villains we're going to get for the rest of the season are American authors, and how excited I was seeing them and how their powers tied in with the stories they wrote and how their personalities are shaped by the stories they wrote in real life. I just can't imagine how awesome season 1 was for a Japanese audience.
Yeah, no kidding.
I really feel like I missed something there, and I seeing stuff like John Steinbeck and Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, and I was like, oh, my literary nerd, which isn't a big part of my nerddom, but I do still get that stuff. I imagine that the season 1 probably would have been a lot better for me.
Actually, just as a momentary thing, just to point out what you're saying about season 1, the Lemon Bomb guy?
Mm-hmm.
He is renowned as an author. He is renowned. And, if you have any of the Japanese literature books that you would have in college or high school or anything, his picture is in there along with the word lemon, because that was the title of one of his poems or books. I can't remember which, but that was so popular and so well known down through history. And of course, it's pronounced Remon. And and it's adorable, and so that's why they decided to make them lemon-shaped bombs, is in honor of that historical well-known
And it's pretty
fact.
great that he really explains what his gift is. It's not that he's not immune to explosions. He's only immune to explosions from lemon-shaped bombs.
Yeah. Okay, so we're about to talk about old characters that didn't really get as much time of day as they should have from the last season. And let's start with this guy, because how do you figure that out? How do you learn you have that ability?
Yep. How many bombs do you blow up to test yourself until you figure out that the lemon is the shape?
And how do you know that you're even immune to an explosion if it comes from that?
Like, he must have made a lemon bomb and it misfired, and he's like, whoa, I have the ability to be immune to explosions. Sets off a regular bomb, gets hurt.
Ow!
Lemon-shaped explosion.
I could totally capitalize on this.
Okay, yeah, so he officially has the weirdest power. Because we mentioned that, why lemons? What are the lemons? Yep. What is up with the lemon bombs? And the only thing is, it doesn't hurt him.
Yep.
It's a weird power, man.
Yep.
Any other old characters that we have our show notes. You guys can see which ones we are going to touch on. Anybody else you want to touch? Gross.
We didn't get any of the farm kid, like, at all.
Yeah.
Like, he showed up in some, like, group.
Yeah, like one big scene where he's in a
to
car.
fight with Chuya.
The doctor lady, the guy with the notes. I said his name wrong all last episode, so I'll let Jeremy say his name.
Oh, Kunikita.
Kunikita. Hardly in this season at all when he was so important. Like, he was one of the main characters, and now he was more background than background characters.
Yeah. Which I actually kind of really like that they're sort of rotating who's going to be the main characters right now to let us get a appreciation for a varied cast. Okay, the one thing that I noticed about the doctor, I had to look it up because, you know, the connection was just kind of weird, and so it was bugging me a little bit. But, like, Elise, the little girl, he even makes a comment at some point, you know, you only have to worry about me if you're 12 years old or younger or something like that. He makes a comment to a lady.
Oh, Maury. So
yeah, Maury's girl.
We are going to talk about Maury later. Do you want to save it for that?
It's very brief, one line, and that is that she is a character from a novel that guy wrote, and she's known as the German dancing girl, Elise.
It will be really interesting to see how she's going to tie into his powers and stuff, or if that even is a thing.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Rampo, I felt, got shifted in this season. He became kind of their go to solve a problem, but like we talked about last season, you probably can't overuse him too much. You got to find a way to keep him in the background. His half an episode he got though was fantastic.
Yes,
it was good,
but not much growth from him. Anyone else I'm not thinking of?
I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so the next season starts with, we're right back with they were calling her Izumi, now they're calling her Kyoka.
First name, last name.
Yeah, it's really confusing to me. I always write down in my notes, like, what? Okay, I'm sure they're going to call her this, and then they switch. Okay, it's this name. And then they go back. Okay. She goes on her first mission, and we kind of get the sense that she's still very violent. And then her mentor from the Port Mafia comes for her. And her mentor almost has the exact same ability. And she, you know, slices up at sushi, and she's like, you don't understand. This girl's a killer. She needs to come with me. To the point where Kyoka's even like, okay, I will go with you. Don't hurt my man. Mm-hmm. And then fights back anyway. Mm-hmm. This all, you know, starts into like what we were into last season, you know, Port Mafia versus agency. You know, agency guys show up, Port Mafia guys show up. They're all going to get in this big fight. And then the guild members come in and cut them all down. They teleport down from the sky.
And we don't even get to see how. Like,
right.
It's over.
And yeah, they rip everyone up. They make everyone's dead, but of course, because the agency members all have a super doctor, they're very lucky that they always go to the brink of death.
Yep. And I mean, they even brought back that lady that had come for Kyoka, you know, that had the same power. They heal her up too.
Yeah. So the agency decides they need to go into hiding. You know, a real war is about to start, a three-way war between these groups. They go into hiding. They capture Kuyu, who is Kyoka's mentor, and Kyoka becomes a big focus for everyone, especially all the way up to the end. So what did you guys, you know, we had our initial thoughts about her, but she did a lot of growth over this season. What did you guys think?
I actually really liked Kyoka as a character by the end of it. There was that moment where it's time for her big test, and you know, as the audience, something's going on, and you see the decisions that she's making, and you're wondering, is this part of the test? Is this part of the test? I really enjoyed that whole situation. Her as a character, it was nice to see the consistency that this is what she's known. This is what she's been trained to do and what she's done all her life. And so even if you try to put her in a good situation, she's probably still going to have that muscle memory and go straight for the katana or wakizashi or whatever that is. And, for the throat, whether it's a policeman or whether it's a judge that she'll tase, there's some great scenes where she's like, here's your paper. And the guy's like, oh, in the corner, because she tased the judge. It's great. I love the character. I love her approaches to problem solving.
Yeah, it was a little frustrating to have her disappear, like many of the characters do in this anime, because I was looking forward to more of her interaction with Atsushi. Unfortunately, they did confirm a 14-year-old girl.
They did confirm it.
So that was awkward, but I still wanted to see more of their relationship. I wanted to see more of her repentance and journey towards the light, because her mentor, said a really iconic line, the flowers that are born in darkness are most teased in darkness. I think that's a line from the lotus, or in reference to a lotus. And yeah, I was looking for, like, how she was portrayed in season 2. I did like the consistency, like you said. I just would have liked to have seen more of her.
Well, I really liked her character journey here. It was a trope, and it was a trope they were overusing in this anime. So many characters were, I was born into violence, or I'm stuck in this world. Lucy, who we meet, Q, Kyoka, even Akutagawa a little bit, like, we're not really evil, but we're stuck, we're made into these killers. And I was like, oh, how many times are we going to touch on this trope? It was being a little bit overused, but I think she was doing it the best. And I think if, you had to get rid of the other ones, she's the storyline you keep, especially with the redemption arc that happens at the end.
That's really interesting. With what you guys were saying, my mind immediately went to the idea of any kind of bad habits, or even just the nature of trying to rise above whatever weakness you might have as a moral part of your character. Each of them was that almost is symbolized by the light that her mentor was talking about. Like, you've shown her the light. Don't show her the light. Don't do that. All that does is hurt, because she's never going to reach it. And that's actually really, really a fascinating representation of that idea, that if you have a weakness in moral character or fiber or anything like that, or you've been trained to do something incorrectly, it's less painful to never know, right? Ignorance is bliss. And that's what she was arguing for, is just let the girl be in darkness like me, because I've seen the light. I couldn't get it. I couldn't stop what I'm doing. That's a really fascinating thing to explore. So yeah, I mean, it is tropey, but I still like it for some reason. It's very well done for her.
And then 2 other characters we meet right at the end of this, and they become bigger characters as we go, so I do want to touch on them. John Steinbeck and Lovecraft. What are you guys' thoughts on them?
Steinbeck, I thought was... I don't know. I didn't like him. And also, I thought it was a little funny they went super literal with it.
That's great.
But Lovecraft was okay. I'm a pretty big Lovecraftian monster fan, so their interpretation of it was decent. I just I wasn't in love with it, but I thought it was interesting. But yeah, the Steinbeck one was just the first time he used his power, like, I got creeped out. Like, I was just like, oh, what are you doing?
I thought the same thing.
Again, how did you discover this?
Exactly.
He was riding his bike and he fell on the concrete, and happened to be on a...
Just got embedded in his neck.
It just makes you wonder if, like, everyone's gifted, but it's such random powers that only a few manage to hit the sweet spot of learning their power. Oh, ricochet bombs. Oh, yeah. I have a power.
Although I do think that there is something to be arguing against that idea, which is, if it's so rare, why do we have two and then a third later? Different sets of characters that have such similar or even almost exactly the same powers where they start to have effects when they're colliding. But as far as these two characters go, I really enjoyed it. I think I was actually talking to Tanya about this when it came to the Japanese characters, because I didn't know them and I didn't know their works. It didn't seem as on the nose to me, or as almost silly of an interpretation of, the title of a book, such as the Grapes of Wrath. Yeah. To portray it as literally planting a grape seed in your neck, having the branch sprout out of your neck at hyper speeds here, grow, attach into the ground, connect to all the various trees around you, and let you control plant life and use it as sensory organs as well. Like, that seems so on the nose and missing the entire concept of Grapes of Wrath.
Right.
Right. But then I guess if we look at the lemon explosion guy, that's kind of on the nose too. It's just called lemon. So I think it is fair, but it's very entertaining to see how they chose to represent these. I thought Lovecraft was absolutely awesome. He's my favorite character of this season. Also because he actually doesn't have a power. He's like Ronpo, but he's not like Ronpo in the sense that he's probably Cthulhu. And
okay, quick question. You can finish. Has Cthulhu ever been in anime before? He's got to have shown up before. So, listeners, if you anime nerds know, let me know where else Cthulhu's ever showed up. Because I saw Cthulhu, I'm like, Cthulhu hit anime. He's finally made it, guys.
Tentacles does not make Cthulhu. So it has to actually be Cthulhu. But I was actually thinking about, okay, every time that we see Cthulhu in Lovecraftian books, or any of the Elder Gods, right, the old ones, it's always from the perspective of the helpless human who's really just an ordinary person who has no magical powers, no strength to stand up and fight against Cthulhu. And so Cthulhu is always described in these terms that are like off the page. Like, you don't get to understand this. Right. And you can never even try to defeat it. There is no chance you will win. You'll go crazy just looking at it or knowing about it.
Mental capacity, right.
Yeah. And so what happens if you take characters that are not your normal, everyday, average Joe, and maybe you give them the ability to control gravity and make collapsible stars and pit it against Cthulhu? That's actually kind of an interesting fight.
I honestly think it's, and I don't know this, not being from Japan, that people of the Japanese culture care about Cthulhu. Like, that it matters to them. Like, oh yeah, we have this old god. Yeah, we have Godzilla. So
I was thinking the same thing. Godzilla kill Cthulhu.
Oh, don't do accents. Don't know. Any last thoughts on Lovecraft from you?
I loved him. He's great.
I completely disagree with you guys. I thought Grapes of Wrath was amazing, and I love the ability. The only thing I didn't like about Steinbeck was his character motivation. Like, he's like, I'm this good guy, but I have to work for these bad guys, so I better be super evil. Yeah, so I didn't like his motivations. As far as Cthulhu showed up in an anime, I was happy. And I like that idea that there's more than just superpowered people in this world. It felt even more comic booky than last season. Like, it's not just mutants. There are things in this world.
Yeah.
We just know about the mutants. It's a little out of left field. How are we, the audience, supposed to ever know Cthulhu could exist? There's never been any hint of anything like that, but whatever. It was super cool.
And just to make it clear so that the audience understands, or the listeners understand, the reason we keep saying Cthulhu is because Dazai tries to deactivate the ability and it has no effect on Lovecraft. So it's made very clear to us that it is not an ability.
Right. He's not an ability. And even at the end, he's like, I'm going back into the ocean. I'm going to go sleep.
Yeah.
He's a sleepy monster that got wrapped up into this whole story and he wants nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the next episode, the war keeps going on. It starts with the Mafia attacking the ship of the Guild, which are these new bad guys, the American bad guys that have come into this group. They're led by Francis. And we meet the characters Nathaniel H., and I don't know the writer's name, but I do know he wrote the Scarlet Letter.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize the book. And then Margaret M., who wrote the Wind.
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. She wrote Gone with the Wind.
And I love how both of these characters are literal interpretations of nothing but the titles.
I love it. It's
So
the same
great.
thing with Grapes of Wrath. I love it.
Yeah.
It's that way for all of them. It's so great.
Yeah,
So
she literally has wind powers.
Yeah.
I actually really liked Nathaniel's abilities because they were near mirrors of
Akutagawa's.
Akutagawa's.
Except for they're from his blood. Whereas
Right.
Akutagawa's is his coat or something.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is his coat. It
It's
is.
not his coat.
Yeah, apparently the name Rashomon is the name of a book that was written about how this kid steals the coat off of an old woman on the street. So that's his coat.
Okay, because in the ending credits, it shows his power coming from like his heart, and he's shirtless.
I'm assuming
I think he doesn't have a coat, and he just makes it take the form of a coat.
that would make sense.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's most likely what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like Nathaniel. The other lady, I could have gone without her. I mean, basically disappears after this episode anyways. So.
Nathaniel doesn't get a lot of screen time. The reason I put him in the show notes is he shows back up in that cliffhanger for the next season, and that he's still a player in this game when the rest of the guild is like, yeah, we're done. He's aligning with a new villain. He's a little bit different from the rest of the guild members in that, and he's fighting with this Margaret at the beginning. And then because when Akutagawa comes and fights them after the Lemon Bomber destroys their ship, Akutagawa comes and fights them, and she takes like the fatal blows for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not reading that in their relationship at all.
No.
Like they seemed antagonistic to each other, like they wanted to hit each other, and then it was almost like, wait, are you guys in love? Did I miss a beat?
Also, Margaret did not seem altruistic at all. She was very selfish. That's the whole reason she was in the guild, is she wanted to get back to a high status. And that's really all that mattered to her. So for her to jump out and take a fatal blow, was really seemed out of character.
Yeah. Did I miss something, or is it just shown badly? Like their characterization changed when this fight started.
Perhaps there's a deeper connection and relationship between these two that we have not seen, that's been off camera, maybe back in America.
Or maybe
They've got a deeper
maybe even
relationship.
the real characters have a connection that the real people.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe they had a workplace relationship that they shouldn't have, and ever since then they broke up, but she's always had feelings for him. And
You heard it, Jason accusing real fiction writers of affairs, right here on Baka Baka Baka.
That's why you had
Wonder
the
how we
Scarlet
got
Letter.
our name.
hey, yeah, Scarlet Letter. He thought it was over. She obviously didn't, so she jumped up front, took the fatal blow for him.
And now she's gone with the wind.
They both
Some
do
central.
survive. She's alive, or
She is.
Yeah, she's like in a
She's
coma.
in a coma.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he, of course, survives because no one ever dies in anime.
Uh-huh.
Unless you're
Except for little
small
kids.
child. Yep. Nailed it.
I don't want, and that's I think the one criticism of this entire both seasons is I didn't want a Kame ga kill type deaths. Spoiler. But the fact that nobody died gave, like, there was very little weight to the threats. Kind of like when you're watching the old Transformers cartoons, you see all these lasers flying, but you know no one's going to get hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's not a spoiler. It's called a Kame God Killed, not a Kame God Survive.
Oh my god, everybody dies.
The end of this episode is we're back at the agency in their secret base, and Chuya, who had tracked the president because he had gotten attacked earlier, and we find out he's a great fighter. Of course. I mean, we all saw that coming. Chuya tracks them back to their new secret base and basically says, hey, I got info for you guys of where the guild can be, so you guys can go attack them. Aren't I nice? And Rompo's like, whoa, he just did the same thing to the guild. Oh no, it's our office workers. So it's the one guy's sister, and I have the other person's name, but it was the president's secretary, I think.
He's also from a book by the same guy, Naomi's brother.
Oh, really?
Both of them are from his books.
Okay. Anyway, they're off in like this other, regular house, and they find out that the guild is going to go target them. So they have to change all their tactics. So they had set out these teams like, hey, you guys need to go save them. They send, man, what's his name? Kichiji go down? No. It's Tanizaki.
Did you really just do that?
Yep, I did it. It's Tanizaki and Kunikita are the ones that are sent out to deal with it. And they have to fight Lovecraft and Steinbeck, because that's when we see Steinbeck's power, and he grabs their car with his vines that come out of his neck that he's got in the whole forest. They come to save him. Kunikita gets a really cool action scene where he's like, oh, I knew you would disarm me, so I brought this note that says gun on it. Which, okay, that note looked a lot smaller than the gun that came out. And I thought his power was objects had to be smaller than the paper. He whips out this tiny piece of paper, this big gun comes out.
Yep.
You know what? Anime. I'm not even gonna hate.
Actually, this scene was probably my second favorite scene because Lovecraft and
Juya.
Steinbeck have overpower both of them, and
they shoot Lovecraft like immediately in the head, boom, to drop him, and then he comes back up, and they're like, oh no.
Yep.
But they're sitting there, they're being strangled by these grapes of wrath. And who's the snow guy, the hologram guy?
Tanizaki.
Wait, let me do it.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm good.
Okay. So Tanizaki, he's sitting there, he's like, I don't care what happens. And he creates a hologram for this truck driver that's coming up the road. And he creates this hologram that nothing's there. Everything's fine. But the problem is that Steinbeck and Lovecraft are standing in the middle of the road and they're like, oh no, we're going to have a witness. Oh, that's actually the least of our problems. That guy's going to hit us. Just runs
that was really good. Didn't that
great
break...
use of a power? What a great use of a power.
It was. Didn't that break Steinbeck's leg? Because he's walking around on crutches after this, right?
I think you're right.
You're right.
Yeah, he actually broke his leg with that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone gets injured from it, but him and Lovecraft take the brunt. Lovecraft obviously is not affected.
Oh, he's fine.
But that makes the girls able to get away and get on this train in the distance. And there's a little boy on the train who greets them. And he's like, "Hey, everybody!" He carries this little creepy doll, and he has weird shaped eyes, like
that are bleeding.
And calling the doll creepy is like an understatement to how gross this doll looks. But he like bumps into them. And they're like, oh, sorry. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry too.
Yeah.
And the episode ends. And I was just like, I have to watch the next one.
So Dazai and Atsushi go to meet the girls when they get off this train. And Dazai gets called away by mafia members who they're like, hey, we want to offer you a chance to come back. He's like, that's stupid. I'm not going to do that. He's like, wait a minute, what's really going on here? And they're like, oh, yeah, we let Q out. We don't want you to die. And he's like, you guys let Q out? So this little boy that was on the train is, we keep getting told these mafia members are the worst of the worst, but even Dazai seems fearful of Q.
Does anyone know where the literary reference for this character comes from? Or if there is one?
You mean as far as like the author and why they chose to make the character this way?
Or who was Q, or where does Q come from? Like, I
don't know where the letter Q comes into play as far as any of his works, but there is a book called Dagra Magra, which talks about a character that wakes up in a hospital with amnesia, and he goes through this whole issue of discovering he's got psychotic tendencies because of some insane ancestor, and he you're not really sure by the end of it because the stories of this author are really surrealistic and everything, but it's quite possible that he killed members of his own family.
Oh,
you
no.
don't know for sure. So, like, I think that they were trying to get that same feeling of surrealism and a psychotic break encapsulated in a character, because they had that split down the middle. I mean, when I saw him, I thought Todoroki from, My Hero Academia. There, we got it in. It gets said.
Yay.
But this representation where he's got like white hair on one side, black hair on the other. I thought he actually looked feminine on one side and masculine on the other as well.
I was the same way.
I thought it was a little girl, actually, myself.
Yeah.
Totally boy.
And so, yeah, I think they were really going for that sort of dual personality split and psychotic break that is very dangerous. And to then be able to exert that outward and cause everyone around you to suffer that psychotic break.
So his ability is, if you cause him pain, he has the ability to mind control you. You get marked by him.
Yeah.
He facilitates this by having razors in his arm held by bandages. So if you even bump him a little, you cause him pain. Mm-hmm. So just the slight touching of him and you're hooked by his power. When he pulled back that sleeve and all those razor blades, I was like, what is going on with this?
I know!
Yeah.
This is a great scene. One of you guys describe it, because this scene is one of the best of the season.
Yeah, it was actually my favorite scene.
Go for it.
Because it was great to have. It was a nice take on mind control, because normally when you get mind control in either anime or other media, you get it from the point of view of the mind controller most of the time. Sometimes you'll get it from the mind control but it's in the reference of reality, and we're seeing it from an outside perspective. Immediately, Atsushi looks and sees both the girls are mind controlled. And so he's like, oh, I have to protect these girls. And so, like, one of them starts to choke him, and so he knocks her out. And then the other one is, like, coming after him, so he's trying to deal with that. What he doesn't realize is he's the only one being mind controlled. And he's seeing what this little boy wants him to see. And Dazai comes behind, breaks the curse by, doing his ability on the doll. And he's like, Atsushi, look what you're doing. And it kind of like gets him like, what do you mean? Look what I'm doing. And he looks and he's strangling one of the girls.
Naomi. He's strangling Kamizaki's sister.
Which actually comes up later. It's pretty great. Because,
yeah, that's right.
He's like, excuse me, what happened? What did you do? But yeah, and actually I also loved the next moment that happened, because he starts to have this breakdown of, I'm supposed to be helping people, and he starts to go into that the backstory of him and the
orphanage,
and actually I really loved what the writers did here. This guy smacks him just right across the face.
Awesome.
And he's like, I'm going to be a proper sensei to you right now. Stop self-pitying yourself. And actually, from that point on, we stopped seeing a lot of that old orphanage scene. We see it a couple more times, but not nearly the amount that we saw in the first season. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about, the character growth with this character, is he starts to realize that the world, he doesn't owe the world anything, and he doesn't need to continue the self-pity for bad things he does without remorse, because he is remorseful. He is trying to better himself. And it's really neat, because like he's got this red mark on his face. His face is turned, but you can see in his eyes, like the animation is really good. Like you can see in his eyes the realization of, what am I doing to myself? It was a really neat character growth moment. But yeah, this whole after train scene was so great.
I love
it. Was amazing character.
I just love that they make the audience get mind controlled along with him.
Yes.
That's such a creative move. That's such a way to tie me into this scene. Like, I got duped. I was like, oh no, the girls, you gotta save them. They've been on the train the whole time. Yep. Of course they're mind controlled. And Zai comes around the corner. I'm like, oh no, I've been mind controlled. Bravo to whoever scripted that scene. Well done.
Yep. was very good.
And then Q rides away on the train, waving to Dazai, I'll kill you later. I'm going to get you.
That was great.
And Dazai's like, no, I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to rip your guts out next time.
And then, yeah, there's the whole slapping at Sushi, which good, because, you know, Jason, I know he's one of your favorite characters, but man, he sometimes just does not work for me.
Well, okay. Whoa. Let's back up a little bit here. Deku, the most self-pitying character of all times, and you're going to come after Atsushi?
Wrong. Deku does not dwell in self-pity.
He cries at the drop of a pin.
That is true. He's an emotional character, and I can't imagine how I would relate to that. But it's not through self-pity. He does not pity himself. I would argue that that is not the case.
I'll give you that.
Despite all this, Atsushi gets abducted by Francis. Francis shows up and is like, hey, I'm going to kidnap you now, basically. And Zumi shows up to save him. And that's how the episode ends. But it doesn't go well because she gets him away and she's like, I called the cops. They're coming. The cops show up, but they see her and they're like, isn't there a serial killer little girl in a kimono right now? Uh-huh. And her instinct is, okay, kill the cops. Uh-huh. And Atsushi stops her and everything basically goes to hell. The guild shows up and captures him, takes him into their flying whale airship. So Herman M shows up, and I don't know the writer of Moby Dick, but it's the writer of Moby Dick shows up and summons Moby Dick from the ocean, which is a giant flying fortress cloaking device airship.
This is so like Final Fantasy-esque.
Yes.
This airship.
Yes. This was Sid.
I was like, did Capcom write this episode?
Yeah. Yeah, this was Sid, and I loved every minute of it, especially because, as we find out later, he's not really a willing participant in the guild's current behavior. He's just kind of going along, which just, it reminded me so much of the Final Fantasy games that I would play, like Final Fantasy 2 and stuff, where you go and you meet Sid, and he's like, no, I don't agree with any of this, and I'm trying to stop it. And 7, same thing. Sid's like, no, I don't agree with any of this. I'm trying to stop it. But he's always a part of it, or was a part of it. I don't know. I really like Final Fantasy.
Well, we also find out, like, near the end that this guy was a former leader of the guild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. Yeah,
2 generations ago or something. Yeah,
he was their former leader. Yep. So weeks go by, and Kyoka's have been arrested. Sushi has been abducted, and do you guys know what the guild's plan is? Because I kind of missed it. They want to burn the city down. I know that. I just don't know why.
A book that Francis is looking for, right, and he's willing to give everything he has to get this book.
Okay, I got that. They explaining why?
Because he wants to bring back his daughter to bring his wife's sanity back.
So it's a book you can alter reality with. Is that our understanding?
Or resurrect somebody.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, so he's looking for the Book of the Dead.
Or the living.
Look, he should talk to Brendan Fraser. He probably knows where it is.
There you go.
Not only did you
take for old references.
That was a terrible reference. Terrible.
I just watched that movie. Come on.
I would say it's better than the new Mummy with Tom Cruise.
I've only heard horrible things. I'm so sad.
Look, all I know is Tom Cruise runs through that movie, so I'm going to see it.
Yeah. He falls through it.
No, I'm not attracted to Tom Cruise. I just enjoy watching that man run. That man enjoys his runs.
Hey, you probably love him the way I love Jason Statham. So
there you go.
I don't know how you love him, so I'm a little worried to associate with that, but that's fine. We need to talk about Sushi now, and I know I just bagged on him, so this is your part to build him up, because this is kind of his big I'm going to be the hero moment. And from this point on, he becomes the hero of our story again. He meets Lucy, and he works to escape this airship. Guys, what about Sushi was better this season?
His confidence level and also his ability to overcome situations more mentally than by straight force. Because in the first season, whenever he got in a jam, what happened? He lost control, turned into the tiger. Things go well for him. This season, I don't think he turned full tiger, maybe but once. And that's when he fell from the airship. Mm-hmm. But he solved more problems through conversation and his intellect than he did with his tiger fists. And I really, that became more endearing to the character. I mean, he was basically a slower healing Wolverine.
I still feel he's the Wolverine of the group. Yeah.
Yeah. But not nearly as violent or, quick to anger, or quick to heal. His healing factor is not that great, but it will bring him back to full health. It just takes him a while. And also really big hits, like take him down for a long time. Like it's interesting because of how far out his ability is. He's still such a relatable character. And, I think that's what I liked because it's like, when he's imprisoned, he can't get out and he needs help. But even though Lucy is technically his enemy, he still cares about her well-being. Which, again, is an endearing factor for me.
I like that. That's fair. Jeremy, how about you?
He is the altruistic hero. Big time.
But is he altruistic enough? Maybe not for me.
I don't think he's altruistic enough for himself. I don't think he is ever happy enough with his level of altruism.
Altruism and beyond.
Exactly. Yeah.
Altruism. There we go.
Yeah. He's a very interesting character, but I think he's that trope taken to the extreme level and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think they did it well. I think that they carried him well as that character, but it's almost like he is that distilled down to purity, where he is the issues he has of self-pity really have become this morphed monstrosity of like, I don't deserve to live, period. And no good that I ever do will be enough, but I'm going to keep trying to do good, as in the words of Akutagawa later. You can't earn the right and don't associate yourself with who you were before.
So, that was a great line, by the way.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character that way. But it's hard not to be already familiar with the trope and also find it sort of bland at the same time. One thing I didn't like this season about him was that they introduced, because of Francis' ability, they introduced numbers. And thus they introduced measurements. This is a $10,000 punch. This is a $100,000 punch. This is a $500,000 punch. And then we see the numbers ticking down.
Don't start with him.
Well, it was additive. It wasn't.
They don't specify like how long once he puts money into himself, how long it's going to last. Is it
right?
I assume it's not permanent, but is it days?
I think there was enough ambiguity there that you can't quite measure it.
My point is that he says that felt like a $10,000 punch. That won't be enough to take me down. Have a $100,000 punch. So there we have a baseline. And so from that point on, whenever he goes higher than that, we know what a $100,000 kick did, not punch, but kick did to Atsushi. And that thing put him through a wall, up through a metal railing, and took him down for the count. So then later, when he magically says, well, I'm going to use 500,000, that's 5 times the power of what took him down in one shot. So now we have this character who he hasn't changed his face yet. So he hasn't changed into that super morphed character yet. He's the same character. The only thing that's changed is his willpower, which you could argue is access to his ability. But then we're back into the realm of complete ambiguity. So don't introduce numbers to me. And so then we just see millions and millions of dollars ticking down in all these stocks. It's like watching, we get
an
a
anime?
Dragon Ball Z character. Well, it's like we get a Dragon Ball Z character, or we get somebody who is compared to these people so incredibly overpowered that I thought that it made it more shallow. Like, if you're going to introduce these numbers to me, you're taunting and tricking me into placing a numerical value on something.
I don't think that was the point of it, though.
I can't imagine most people really focused on that.
No, because the point was, no matter how much money you spend, if you're fighting for the right, fighting for right, and that your will is stronger, you will prevail.
What if the Great Gatsby had more will and less money?
A great Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Fitzgerald. But I mean, he's the guy that wrote that. But like, what if he had the will that was strong? So basically, the money didn't really matter. He just needed to have stronger willpower.
No, because his power was completely wrapped up in money.
We are focusing completely on the wrong character. This character comes up at the end of this episode.
My point is that it's arbitrary. My point is it's arbitrary which characters are motivated and empowered by will and which characters are motivated and empowered by something that is a hard value that they can place.
Right, but it's Sushi.
I don't like that.
Right, Sushi was in the script, was written to be good, so.
See, but oh, that's so arbitrary. Don't give me numbers then.
Which is what anime is all about. It's bread and butter, man. You know that.
Yeah.
No,
I don't think anyone else on the planet is as irritated about these numbers as you are.
I liked them as a sort of interesting cinematic addition.
Trying to get us back on the rails.
No, I was gonna say, we get more comments of people agreeing with Jeremy than anybody else. So be careful what you say.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know. I liked it cinematically. I'll say that.
Okay, but again, we're talking about a Sushi, or at least we're supposed to be.
Oh yeah, that guy.
I mean, I'm glad you liked the final battle. That's another 20 minutes.
Battle.
Sure.
It was awesome. But okay, yeah, Atsushi was pretty cool.
Oh, good. I'm glad you thought that.
Let's move on.
I guess I already made my thoughts on Atsushi. No, I will say, just like season 1, the farther the series goes along, the more I like him. The final battle, I was rooting for him, and that was a lot easier to do than back at the start. I did not root for him, but especially back in season 1, hardly at all. I did like him as he grew more confident. Still kind of feel like he gives up a little too easy sometimes, where he's like, I'm going to fight. Oh, that guy's really fast. Oh my gosh. Never mind.
I'm so dead.
But yeah, as far as protagonists go, he's middle of the road, but he was fine. I think his biggest problem is he's standing side by side with a Kutagawa, who is fascinating to me as the season went on.
I'd agree with that.
So, but we'll talk about him later. Oh man, Atsushi escapes with help from Lucy because they share orphan abuse stories,
which was weird.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Show me my scars, you show me yours.
He shouldn't have scars. He regenerates. He shouldn't have scars. He has a doctor who chainsawed him and then brought him back to full health.
That's a really good
should
point.
Not be scars. But whatever.
Be scars.
I was thinking the exact same thing when he pulled up his shirt and he had scars. I was like, what?
Maybe he has to have like the bottom of his body cut off so that the tiger can regenerate that.
Oh, he parachutes down to the city, which is on fire. Oh, wait, I should probably talk about the plan.
Yeah.
Steinbeck and Q's powers being used together because they kidnapped Q and tied him to every plant in the city. So anyone who's ever stepped on a root has hurt him. And now they're able to mind control all these people to make them burn the city down. About 20% of the population.
Okay, so hang on.
Oh, no.
What kind of control does Q have over the people that he mind controls? What do you guys think? Okay, so what should have happened to Steinbeck when he demonstrated to us by stomping on the root and causing pain to Q?
Yes, but he's already in control of that guy's mind, so I guess...
Are you sure he's in control of his mind? Or
yeah, because he's got his root inside of him, so he's the one driving the hallucination.
What I took from that was that
he hurts him mentally and makes him like go crazy. You're right.
That's what I thought. Yep. So Steinbeck should have had the handprint on him. He should have been under Q's control.
I was actually thinking the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm trying to think of a way the root, would nullify. Well, I don't know.
I was trying to think of it like basically because the root's coming from him, but yeah, he still stepped on it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So does I parachute or not? Does I? Sorry, Atsushi parachutes down into this carnage
Because he has the doll. Because
right.
yeah,
He's
he
trying
got
to get
the doll.
he
Francis
got the doll.
rips the doll, gets the city in shambles with basically zombies starting fires everywhere. So Atsushi's plan is, I got to get this doll down to Dazai from an airship, so that he can dispel this curse amongst everybody. And, but he's trapped in a jail cell. So Lucy actually gets him the doll. Like she knew the plan that had, like, how did she know that she needed the doll?
I wonder if they gave it to her for safekeeping because she has that dimension. She could just put it in there and no one could get it unless she wanted them to.
They suspected she was going to betray them already because they have that lady who's
the
so good at master strategist.
That's true.
Anyway, to move on.
Yeah, he comes out, parachutes.
Gets to the city, and there's a great...
Whoa. Huck Finn shoots him.
Oh my
God.
God.
Twain shoots him with Huck. I was about to say that. You guys kept interrupting me.
Oh.
I'm sad. I was so excited. I was about to introduce it. Oh.
Stole
But
the
he
thunder.
landed. He hit him in the air. I'm sorry. I should have let you.
It's cool. Mark Twain is working the anti-air cannons and starts fire, and he has like two spirits, one of Huck Finn and one of Tom Sawyer, who that he uses to make the bullets get guided. And
I don't understand that link. I don't. Can you clue me in? Like how
why is he
Huckleberry
such a good
Finn and
sniper?
Tom Sawyer? Yeah. Like how Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer wind up being like these little ghosts that can guide bullets. Can you help me with that? I don't get it.
Americans like to shoot guns.
There it is. You got it. You got it right there.
It worked in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It was the same thing. I'm Tom Sawyer. I can shoot guns.
I don't even remember. I'm gonna have to rewatch that. God, it's been
He
too
was
long.
the young guy that Sean Connery's like, oh, I'll teach you how to shoot guns, American.
Oh, I gotta rewatch that.
Oh, yeah. So he gets away. He almost doesn't know because the oil truck blows up and it knocks him down, but Dazai shows up, and Dazai had already planted all these smoke bombs in the city. And
how did Dazai know, A, where he was going to be, B, that he was even on the airship? Huh?
Dazai's 3 steps ahead. Always is.
Yeah.
It was mentioned, someone said that Dazai had put those smoke things all over the city. So it is possible that...
And it's been 2 weeks since he was kidnapped. He had time to prep for this.
Yeah.
That's true.
So anyway, he dispels the curse and they go hide. And Atsushi's like, all right, that's it. We need to go talk to the Port Mafia. And this is actually probably one of my favorite scenes because Dazai sets this up. Mori and Yukichi, who's the president of the agency, and they know each other. Like at first they're like, let's talk about a ceasefire. Ceasefires don't work. You know, we'll whoever betrays ends up winning. And so if you're incentivized to betray, one of you will. And they start like referencing their past, like, you're still a sick doctor. Well, you're still talk to cats, you weirdo.
Which actually, on his way to this meeting, he like pulls out a sardine to lure a cat.
Yep. That was awesome.
Really, yeah, so a really great scene of these meetings. But basically what the agency is asking, they're not even asking for help. They're like, don't mess with us for like a couple days. Give us time to focus so we don't have to deal with you. And the mafia is like, no, we'll help. We're going to help. We didn't ask for your help. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
They actually have a pretty great, like, little spat fight scene.
Yeah, where they get ready to throw down, and they end up kind of tying, but then you find out Yukichi was using Tanazaki's illusions, and he never was standing there in the first place.
Now,
pretty cool.
I don't understand. If that happened, then how come the ninja and the little gunman guy were affected by the attack?
Who said that he didn't attack? He just could attack from a different spot, or even moved after the attack.
It must have been after that attack that he moved. That's
yeah. We have no idea when the illusion began.
Started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he did put away his sword after the illusion ended. meaning he may have just walked away,
must
but the illusion made it look like he was still there.
Don't forget, Yukichi's ability is anyone under his employ, he can control the limits of their powers.
Well, I thought it was that they would then be able to control their powers. I thought that was what it
Gives
was.
them like greater control. That's why
Right. He can't control your powers, but he can.
Right.
He can,
Help you
enhance
reach your potential.
control. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
which is a really arbitrary power, by the way.
And we don't know Mori's power, right?
I don't know Mori's, but I do know that what's the other guy's name? The other president?
Yukichi. You just call him the president.
Okay, the president. All men are equal. That was actually this really long poem that he wrote that is really, really pretty. If you ever get a chance to read it, it's really nice. It's not that long, but it's really cool. So that's the name of his ability, and that it fits.
Right. I like both these characters, and I'd love to, if they do go to season 3, these are probably the two I'm watching the most because I really am fascinated by their history and their motivations and just how strong they are. I still don't get I know we know why they put the little girl in the anime, but I don't understand what that ties to Mori's power or not. Because she was gone almost the second half of this anime, and I was like,
she doesn't age.
Her?
She doesn't age either, so it is quite possible.
Is that tied to him or tied to her? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I know that
how he was. I do love how he was trying to dress her into a red dress, and she wouldn't put it on. And Onosaki comes in. He's like, "I didn't see anything. Don't worry."
Yeah. Or when she was like eating all the cake, and he's like, "No, don't eat that cake." And she's, "I'll put on the dress that you wanted me to put on.
Here's your cake.
Here's your cake."
Would you like seconds?
Yeah, and I again, she's a character from one of his books, so she's got to be attached to him. She's got to be some kind of manifestation of his or something. But I mean, Naomi and Higuchi.
Yeah, Naomi's not. Yeah.
So or not Higuchi, but that's the lady with the machine guns. But that other secretary. So I don't know. But she doesn't age. So she's a Riddler.
So the rest of this anime goes with the Zai going to rescue Q from the guild, and the poor mafia sends Chuya to help him. And they have this really cool battle. I think we talked about it a lot already.
Because they used to be partners, right?
Yeah, they were old partners. They were the most devastating team in all of the city.
Black.
Right. They still hate each other. I love their interactions. I love how much they hate each other. I love how, like, oh man, I would have taken off your head. No, you wouldn't. I wasn't even trying.
Yeah.
Or when he's like, the night I quit the mafia, I put a car bomb on you. That was you.
That was awesome.
Just so it's clear, Dazai is not a hero. This is a bad person.
Yeah.
And then they do save Q, and then they have the big battle with Steinbeck and Lovecraft. Steinbeck they take out easily because of Dazai's power of turning it off. But yeah, Lovecraft, because he's not a superpower, he is literally a giant monster from under the sea, an old god. They have to actually battle him, and we see Chuya go full power.
He goes berserk and loses
berserk mode. Yes.
And they actually make a pact, like, before he goes into the berserk mode. He's like, if I do this, you need to turn me off after this is over. And
that's why they were such good partners, is that you could have this guy go into his berserk mode, cause mass destruction, and then not lose him because Dazai's there. That's what made them such a strong combo. This is the most we've seen of Chia, because we only got like one episode or so last season. So what did you guys think of this character now that we get more of him?
Bad action. He can make a black hole. Like, that's overpowered. I mean,
Jeremy, do you think making black holes when battling a monster is overpowered?
I think that it's on the same level as Cthulhu. Like, I really do.
Actually, it was neat to be like, he was doing tons of damage to Cthulhu, but he would just regenerate in moments, no matter what damage he took. And then the side's like, oh, from the outside, huh? Well, what about the inside? And you're like, when did you place a bomb inside him?
Yeah. I have no idea how that happened.
I was so excited when the monster took off Dazai's hand. I'm like, oh man, that is going to be a lasting consequence. And he's like, nope, I was just hiding my hand.
I was just being a jerk again.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Desire, you got me too.
No, this battle was definitely, if not level, just a one bar underneath the final battle. Like
I
this
totally agree.
I did love the design. Let him go just a little extra. Like, it was so fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, and you know, he got to make fun of him so much in the first season, right? Like leave and you're going to talk like a little girl. And in this one, when you watch Chuya's behavior after he defeats Cthulhu, he's got like this big, I think he had a grin on his face. I can't remember exactly, but I remember that his posture was like just kind of happily striding along, just throwing devastating black holes left and right. And it really was like, it's almost like when he lets go, Chuya is a joke. I mean, he's incredibly powerful and devastating, but he himself, he just looks silly, especially in his really cool vest and everything so I loved that. I thought that was great. That was my favorite scene in the anime, just watching Cthulhu and this guy who can control black holes duke it out. That was awesome. Yep.
So before we make our final story run of the series, we get a half of an episode of Edgar Allan Poe challenging his rival Ron Poe to a detective battle. I chose Edgar Allan Poe as my avatar for this episode. If you're watching the YouTube version, I don't know why they gave him a raccoon as a pet. Why not a raven?
The black cat. But instead of making it a black cat, they chose to use a raccoon.
Okay.
And it worked really well for the last episode.
Oh yeah, I wrote down the raccoon's name. I was so Carl the raccoon.
I like Poe's ability of being able to suck people into a novel if they start to read what he's written.
I also love that Poe wasn't really a villain. He only signed up with the guild to get a chance to challenge Rampo. And he's kind of got a similar thing with Akutagawa where he just wants recognition by this person so bad. But really, what's great about this episode was Rampo going into this mystery and thinking he learns powers don't work here. And he's like, oh, I can't solve this.
I don't have my glasses.
Yep. So I don't know if either of you guys caught this, but if you haven't, I'm going to blow your mind. Ready? Take Ranpo Edogawa's name and flip it around. And what do you have? Edogawa Ranpo, right? Now, say it fast. Edgar Allan Poe. Edogawa and Poe. Edgar Allan Poe.
I get it.
Rand Poe.
Wait, what does that mean?
But it's his real name. It's just, is this just a coincidence?
No. Edgar Allan Poe.
Right.
Okay. Ran Poe is your favorite character from season 1 with Ultra Deduction. Yes. He's a Japanese author. But when you flip his first and last name, it's Edgar Allan Poe.
Well, it sounds similar, yes.
No. God, what is it called? It's called Ryushi or something like that. It's the phonetic.
But these are both real people, so this is just a coincidence, right?
That can't be a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence. These people were born with similar names.
I didn't do each other. I didn't get a chance to look it up, but it is Edgar Allan Poe, which is Edgar Allan Poe. It's so weird that I don't know, but that's something that I saw in there, and I was like, wait a minute.
You okay?
Come on, these are two different authors that both wrote mystery novels, but these are their names. It can't be coincidence. Somebody had to be named after somebody else.
Okay. When you say it can't be coincidence, that's a pretty strong statement.
Well, okay, the chance is minuscule.
I mean, there's literally someone who works at my company with the exact same name as me in the same company, first and last.
Okay,
he wasn't named after me.
I will find this.
Okay,
I will find this.
Yeah. Put it in the show notes.
Really, really cool mystery. But nothing really important. This feels like Rampo's last episode, or it was. They did the same thing in the last season, where like right before the end, they're like, "Hey, here's just a random Fun thing.
That was his pseudonym. His real name was Taro Harai. He chose to be called Edogawa Ranpo because he wanted to be named after Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it was.
So he wasn't named after him. He just thought it was a cool name and took it.
Yeah, he used it as a pseudonym.
Right.
But as far as we know, like these characters, think about it for a second, though.
That is cool that
Edogawa and Edgar Allan Poe.
Ron Poe was obsessed with Poe, and then in the anime, Poe was obsessed with Ron Poe.
Exactly.
That is cool.
Yes. Okay.
My mind's still intact, though. It's just
you just don't realize how blown it is yet.
okay.
It's so blown that you don't even
That's what she said. Okay.
Oh, your turn, huh?
But yeah, the only thing that comes out of this is after Ron Poe does solve the mystery, even though he refuses to accept that he does not have a gift. Because it would look stupid if I admitted that now. Exactly. They get secrets on the Moby Dick. So him and Desire review the ship's plans, and they come up with a battle strategy to defeat the guild. Which is pretty cool that they allude to like what's going to happen in the next couple episodes. Because Sushi is listening to them and doesn't get it at all. Even though he's like the main part of the plan. But the plan is that they're going to send him
alone
onto Moby Dick. And at the same time, Desai goes back to what's his name? Ongo, and is like, "Hey, that little girl that got arrested, we need her back. I need your help to get her back." And this is the second time he's met Ongo, and last time he got him in a car accident.
Interesting prison for Kyuyo.
Right, it's a drone plane that she's chained in the middle of,
and there's chains all around her.
What happens when it runs out of fuel?
Solar panels?
Is she so powerful that she needs that? She didn't seem like that powerful. Like, just take her phone away, guys. She can't do this without a phone. We're fine.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, but it's set up for later. Like, it has a payoff, but it doesn't make a ton of sense. So she gets on the plane, and Akutagara gets on Moby Dick as well. And these two run into each other, and there's this great scene of Desai's like, "He's in your way. I got an idea. Just do what I say." He's like, hey, Desai wants to talk to you on the phone. Throws the phone down. God. And Akutagara dies for it. Uses his powers to catch it. Gets the phone. Desai, click.
So mean.
Is this, Jeremy? Now you sent a message, and I wasn't.
That's when I sent it.
That Desai's such a jerk.
Yes, I was like, "Oh my god, he's such a jerk!" Like, that is the most evil, manipulative thing you could do to someone's emotions.
He wants to talk to you.
Click. Yeah.
It really shows that Akutagawa is not just wanting Desai's approval. He's obsessed with it. It is his every waking thought. And the idea that he wanted to talk to him was enough that he was suicidally jumping after this communicator.
Yep. That was awesome.
So when Atsushi he finds Herman, and Herman's like, "Yeah, everyone left the ship except for me and Francis. We're crashing it into the city, and at the speed it's going to go, it's going to like blow up everything." So Atsushi goes after Francis, and that's when we learn Francis's ability. Now, when he gets there, Francis is on the phone with his wife Zelda, and he's talking to her, and we find out later that his wife is insane since their daughter died, which is his whole, and because she believes she's still alive, and he's like, "I'm going to make that reality," which ties back into what you guys were talking about in the book. What did you guys think of Francis the villain?
I thought his power was extremely funny racist. I thought it was great. Like, what should we say about Americans? Spend money for power.
I thought it tied in really well with Great Gatsby. I didn't see it as an American. I saw it as Great Gatsby. Because Great Gatsby is so obsessed with money.
I'm not familiar with Gatsby.
Yeah, it's a story about rich people and how messed up rich people are.
Still, I love the way you put it, though. That was beautiful. That was so entertaining.
But it's just like, he's like, well, my power level is based on how much money I spend. And when he
power level 2, he's going to get mad.
He's literally spending it into his power. He's not buying things. He's literally just burning it up to then become part of his power.
Hold on. Now, he said as he spends it, he gets stronger. Does that mean spending it on anything or literally just burning it into himself?
He'll pull up like a credit card, and then the credit card will disappear.
So I wasn't sure if you like had the banks like just buying random stuff, like buy stocks on eBay.
No, the money literally
just disappears. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, like he threw up a bunch of dollar bills, his power started to go, and then all of a sudden the bills turned into the lines.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he can will his money into himself. Because I was thinking, like, if he was buying stuff, I'm like, well, at least you still have valuables. You could sell that back. You can get your money back. Nope. That makes more sense. He is very much stronger than Atsushi, especially with even just spending. He even says, like, this is nothing to what I normally spend. This isn't even a shopping trip with my wife.
Yeah, exactly.
And easily overpowers Atsushi. And then Kutagawa shows up and is like, hold still. I need to fight this were-tiger. You need to leave us alone.
He comes up, completely ignores Francis, and just kicks him in the gut. He's like, what are you doing on the floor? Get up.
Get up. We're fighting.
Yeah.
We're fighting now.
Francis is pissed off about this. He's like, I don't like being ignored. And he's like, hey, I don't like it when my dessert gets in the way of my main course.
That was great.
So
great lines.
They fight. It was really cool how they, because the Kutagawa could not care less about like crashing in the city or any of this. He is there to fight Atsushi because he's obsessed with it. And the way they make Francis obsessed with not being the center of attention, that it pushes Kutagawa and Atsushi into a team. They end up having to run away together, and then they start arguing about anime opinions.
Okay. This scene was beautiful because they're both in the same elevator, but they're as far apart from each other as they can get.
They stand in the corner looking away.
The corners looking at the corner, looking at the wall with their backs to each other. That was amazing. Through the whole ride up to the top on that elevator, they're talking while facing the corners.
And Kutagawa was like, you're an idiot. You realize this elevator is just going to a corner for us. There is no running after this elevator ride is over.
Yep.
So they all go out to the ship deck, and we get the big final battle with these two. And we see Kutagawa's final power, which is demon armor. He can wrap himself in the stuff and give himself super strength and super speed. And Atsushi's like, I can go more were-tiger. And he gets a little bit of a tiger face. Well, because there was a scene where he's embraced his inner tiger. Like he's like, me and the tiger are friends now.
Yeah, and he like pets its ear or something.
So after it incised his neck.
Right? Yeah, there was actually blood in this fake inside his head.
Yeah, inside his head.
Yeah, like it like attacks him to the neck, and he's just like, "Oh, pretty kitty,
give me your power."
So they attack Francis separately and like pushing each other out of the way. Like, no, I'm gonna do it. And when they're doing it, Francis makes the comment like, "You two are so similar." And they're so mad by that comment. They hit them together and just sent them flying.
Yep,
that was pretty cool. And then so he's like, I'm going to spend all my money into me because what's money for? It's worth my goal. Mm-hmm. And he becomes Super Saiyan. He does. Yeah, he gets all golden and glowing.
It's like the golden pulsing light that shoots up into the heavens. Yeah.
They start losing. Atsushi gets like knocked off the ship, and Kutagawa actually catches him and helps him back. And they combo their powers, which was a really cool scene. This final punch was really cool. That he's coming in with his tiger punch, and Kutagawa wraps his ribbon around the claw and strengthens it, and they punch him so hard that it drains all his money.
just Just the way you said that. That's an amazing thing to say. He got punched so hard, he drains all his money.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, what can you do? That's what happened.
That's how it goes. My bank account. Bing.
So the bag, Francis falls off the thing. He's still alive, by the way. They're like, oh, I'm sure he's alive. Of course he is, because no one ever dies in this anime.
I'm sure he had some like $100 left or something.
Go ahead.
Well, before the punch, Akutagawa says something really profound to Atsushi, where he goes, because he's been railing against him this entire fight. He's like, dude, you don't need to validate your existence by saving people. You're not going to earn the right to live. But there is this moment where he's like, your deeds and words of your past do not make who you are now.
Mm.
And it like hits Atsushi really hard. He's just like, you know what? He's right. I can let the past not define me.
Yeah. Which is also really cool because it motivates him to say something similar back to soothe Akutagawa without really even thinking about the fact that he's doing something nice to this guy, just because it's the reflex. Someone does something nice to you, you do it nice back, right? And so he winds up saying to Akutagawa, I think Dazai approved of you a long time ago, Yeah. It was great. It was a great exchange between them.
You could see Akutagawa's face soften when he said that too.
Yeah.
I love that Akutagawa came on this airship screaming, I don't understand you. I don't understand you. And he's like, I do understand you. And that's stupid.
Exactly. Yes. That was so great.
And then helps him kind of break past that point. Quick thoughts on Akutagawa, because I think he stole the show, especially in this ending. Like, his character arc, I thought was so good.
I loved his, ever since the first season, because I think he's a lot deeper than what the anime is leading on. Or at least he could be. Because it does feel very much, I'm looking for validation from the Zai, and that's my only thing. I don't think that's his only thing. I think that's his main thing. But I think there's more to him. Like, I think there's more story behind his power, how he got that power, and what his life is like living with this power and this desire. Because, like, yeah, he is a bad dude. Like, he kills for the Port Mafia on a fairly consistent basis, without thinking about it, because it's in his actions. Like, his first reaction to most conflict is just go stab him with Ramon Shone? Yeah. Literally, that's one of his first reactions, is just go stab it first, then we'll talk. No, I think you're right, Troy. He definitely stole the show. And it's interesting that Dazai said that he's more of a support character than he is frontline.
That he has the power to be frontline, but if he realizes that if he acts as support for frontline, he'll be like twice as strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jeremy, what'd you think of him?
I loved him. I thought he was really, really cool. Just watching this character that's been the villain so clearly and indisputably suddenly flip over and become somebody that you could care about and somebody that you actually wanted to see succeed in this fight. And it's almost like a Vegeta moment where you're like, you're really rooting for this guy and you're hoping that he's going to finish that trajectory and become a good character. So yeah, I really like this character.
Why are there so many DBZ references? Or
it's the granddaddy, man.
Dang it!
It's touched so many people.
It's the inventor of tropes.
Yes.
Really close to probably my favorite character, especially, like I said, after this arc. I loved, even from the beginning, as soon as we get back to the normal story, the intro shows him and Atsushi like switching spots as they do a final battle. You kind of see where the whole anime is going because of that intro. But I really liked knowing that's where we were going. He's the Sasuke to Atsushi's Naruto, and that made him more interesting, that he's not just this murder machine. And in that flashback, back in the first 4 episodes, we saw Dazai getting upset with him and shooting a gun at point blank at his face.
Uh-huh.
And he uses his ability to block the bullets. He's like, I didn't know I could do that. And Dazai's like, well, it's a good thing you figured it out, huh?
And next time you screw up, I'm going to shoot a lot more bullets at you.
If Dazai is, I said it last time, he's a jerk, but he is awful. And Akutagawa, the way he is a reflection of who Dazai was back then. And to see him trying to overcome that, but still obsessed with that approval, that's a really cool complexity that I'm digging on this character.
Yeah,
totally.
So yeah, they win, but then they're like, hey, we got the controller. I stole it from his pocket. Let's save the ship. And then someone overrides it, so it's still going to crash.
Of course.
Which is set up for the next season. Oh, there's another villain who's been watching this whole thing. This whole time this fight's been going on, Dazai has been on the phone with Kyoka in her prison flying plane. He's like, hey, I can teach you how to fly the plane. And she's like, I'm not worth it. He's like, yeah, probably, but you've killed 35 people? We should talk about me.
Uh-huh.
He basically, reveals like, hey, the big thing is that she never became an official member of the agency because she never passed the exam like Atsushi did when he jumped on the bomb in season 1. And so she's not protected under the agency's license, so she can't get free from this prison. But he's like, hey, you could still go do this good thing anyway. And so she pilots the drone into this Moby Dick airship and explodes and drops into the river. Akutagawa saves Atsushi here. He grabs him and pulls him off the airship, and they come down, and Dazai and Yukichi, the president, are there. And they're like, hey, just so you know, if you pass an exam, you're now a member of the agency. And if you're a member of the agency, the president's power works on you, and you can tap into your full potential of your ability, which means she doesn't need her phone anymore. And she was able to free herself and get off the plane. She's here. Yay.
And somehow her demon snow can teleport her now?
Did it? Or did it carry her, maybe?
It didn't look like it looked like a little blip, and then her foot touches the ground.
Look, it doesn't matter because there's a magical scene right after this where Dazai walks up to Akutagawa and touches his hair and he passes out from it.
That was great. That was great. Yeah. Because he says, you've grown strong. And Akutagawa's just like, that's all I've wanted to ever hear. Oh. That was great. But I have a question about Kyoka. Why did she have access to a computer terminal inside of this highly secure jail cell in a flying drone?
Told her how to get to it? I don't know.
It's in her jail cell because she couldn't chop free with the demon snow creature until...
anime.
Come on, anime.
I mean, maybe... I don't know. The only reason she's able to do it is because of Bungo and Dazai's machinations to help her. But why was she able to touch the computer? Why would you put someone in a jail cell that close to a PC? I don't know.
That's my big question. Yep. Yeah. So, okay. Plot hole.
So we get our epilogue. Kyoka's part of the agency now. Edgar Allan Poe comes and visits. And he's like, I was just a villain. Should I be here? And Rumpel's like, I don't care. I'm going to go over there and party. You just stay here.
I look forward to your next book.
Yeah.
And then the girls get a hold of his raccoon.
Yeah. Yep. And that made me endeared to the character. Like, oh, he's so nice. I can't help but like it. That's why he's my picture right now. The mafia celebrates. They get back that Kyoka's mentor. And they're like, why didn't you escape? And she was like, I don't know. Reasons.
Maybe I like the scene.
Yeah. Dazai calls her sister at one point, but then she doesn't call him that back. So I don't think they're related. Maybe
I think it's the executive position.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm. So the poor mafia celebrates. The interesting scene, Dazai meets with the old guy from the Black Lizards. Is that was their name? Mm-hmm. And they talk about how that guy was the reason Akutagawa ended up on Moby Dick. That was all part of the plan. And all of this had been Rampo and Dazai's plan, and they had manipulated Akutagawa to go attack Atsushi, knowing that they would team up. And Dazai says,
all they told him was, hey, Atsushi's going to be on Moby Dick. And Akutagawa just takes off.
Yep.
No other information.
And Dazai says he did this just to see how strong they could be together, because the real battle's coming. an old demon that he had beaten before, but he's going to be even stronger this time, so they need to be full power. And that, to me, was like the biggest disappointment in this anime, because I was like, oh, Kutagawa got his approval, Atsushi got his full power, Kyoka became a part of the thing. Like, we're wrapping things up, and they're like, no, none of this really mattered. It was all just for funs.
Well, the city was going to be destroyed. I don't see how that was for funsies.
Now hear me out, because I actually thought this was going to happen. Francis charges up, full power, spends all his money into his body, becomes superpower, and Dazai touches him.
That's good.
That would.
I thought that's where they were going. I thought Dazai was going to walk up and touch him and be like, "That was cute. You're broke." And he
that
would have done that, and it made me realize Dazai is literally just getting his pawns ready for something else, and that was disappointing, because I like a 2-season anime wrap up completion. I'm not really looking for a long running series as much as I like the characters. The other thing we get, though, is the hint of the next villain, and I have no idea who it is. So Jeremy,
Dostoevsky. Yes, Fyodor. It basically, from what I understand, Tanya told me it translates to Theodore, basically. But Dostoevsky is a major, major Russian writer that he was kind of, in his day, sort of what you might call a social activist, but in a way that very much promoted the orthodoxy of the Christian church at that time. So he was against the Christians, and he was against other religions as well, but he thought that orthodoxy was really the epitome, the one true religion. And he was very, very poetic in his prose and in his phrases. He's a very good writer. She's told me all kinds of stuff he's written throughout our marriage, and I can't remember anything except he was an awesome writer.
Nice
I'm
work.
a terrible person, but
Hey,
but he obviously the equivalency of like us recognizing John Steinbeck or Mark Twain, like this is a big deal in their country. So Russia's the villains in the next one. You know, we beat the Americans, and now we're gonna beat the Russians. Japan can beat everybody.
I almost wonder if it's going to become a little bit more varied. I don't actually think it's going to stay with just Russian authors. I bet you it's going to have like French authors and maybe English authors and a handful of others as well. I got the gut feeling, because of the way that, you know, we get that momentary shot of Nathaniel H., right? He's become a part of his crew as well. Yeah. I wonder if it's like this multicultural, underground organization that is now going to be pitted up against Japan's best authors. And at the same time, you know, the armed detectives, they now have Edgar Allan Poe. There's a good chance that they're going to have at least access to, if not friendship with, like, was it Lucy?
Oh, Lucy.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to her. Herman joined the government, the Japanese government. Kind of by force, but they kind of recruit him. And then the rest of the guild members are like, some of them are going to look for Francis, some are going to go make sure the guild stays running efficiently, because they're infighting now for a leadership position. And that's that. I still, to me, this not getting a full resolution and wanting to continue is a bummer. But I can understand wanting to see a cooler villain. But we'll see. Let's give final review, guys.
Definitely 4 for me. Story wasn't perfect. Also, execution on some of the important plot devices felt lacking, especially with some of the holes like Steinbeck not being controlled. The whole Francis thing felt a little empty, but was an interesting idea. But besides that, it was a fantastic anime. Enjoyed the heck out of every episode. I didn't find any of the episodes that felt, it's just a filler episode. Like, I was genuinely excited to see every single episode. And again, that slow burn character development for Atsushi just made me endear that character even more. And like you said, Troy, Akutagawa at the end really felt like, even though he was a bad guy, a character I could root for. So, well done. If I could give it a 4.5, I would, but definitely 4 bakas.
Yeah, I'm in exactly the same boat. I wish I could give it a 4.5. It is very, very good, but it does have a few glaring things, plot holes, issues that we've already mentioned. That those things bug me, and they bug me bad.
I hadn't even thought of the money thing. I actually find that really interesting. That hit you so hard.
It's like you've got a scouter and you're yelling the numbers at me. And then you're telling me, oh, no, ignore that, you know? And I'm like, no, I got a tablet and I'm writing them down. And I'm like, it's 9,000. It's over 9,000, you know? So that stuff bugs me. But I do realize the cinematic value of it. And that's why I'm not going to let it, you know, take very much off, barely have any effect at all, because it was a fantastic anime, fantastic season. I also really loved the opportunity to dig into some of these authors that I have never heard of before and, you know, read a little bit here and there, even if it's just some of their biographies and stuff. Very, very cool getting to see that interpretation and also their real world stuff. So well done. Well done. Definitely recommend this. 4 out of 5.
I do not want to give it a 4.5. I just want to give it a regular 4. But I am giving it a 4 bakas out of 5 too.
Then never mind.
I love the use of literature as a basis for these characters. That's so cool. It's such a great idea. I love that like a helicopter was kept in the library. Like they get stuck to the theme and they made it really cool. So super good high points. When this anime was on its best, it was really, really good. I still think there's too many moments where we're spinning our wheels or they're not super important. Rampo's mystery was really cool, but it also wasn't necessary to the story, and there was too many moments like that. So that it's just not perfect, but this was still a really fun watch, absolutely. And you know, the problems with season 3 I can live with. You know, maybe season 3 is great, and I should shut my mouth. Who knows?
My Hero Academia season 2 is the tournament arc. I'll never watch that.
Yeah, okay, you got me. What do you want? Best tournament I've ever seen. We are now next week watching Jeremy's Choice, Rage of the.
Oh, here we go.
I can do this. Rage of the Bahamut. No, that's not it.
No, that's good. That's good. That's acceptable.
Rage of Bahamut.
Yep.
Genesis. Now,
yes.
That's important. That Genesis is important. So this was an anime back in 2004, 14? 2004? It's older than we usually do. That's important. But the sequel is out right now and being aired. So we are going to go back and check out the original. That completely falls within our realm of what we like to do. And it is a magical fantasy action adventure.
Yes.
With demons and monsters.
It doesn't say comedy. It has no comedy tag.
Boo.
But yeah, I guess the thing that really caught my attention was that you've got 3 distinct factions of like gods, demons, humans caught in the middle of it. And the fact that it's all based off of a card game. And it's supposed to provide like the background story for this card game. Nobody expected anything really cool out of this, but it got good ratings. People really liked it. So I want to see.
Exact same story, or exact same scenario of World of Warcraft. You know, it was just a background for a card game.
Yep.
And I ended up liking it.
Guys, listen. I just remembered a comedy anime that I loved due to this conversation.
What?
Devil is a part-timer.
That's going to be mentioned by me in the mini show.
I laughed my butt off. That was a good one.
Okay, so Jason does like to laugh sometimes. This is a big episode, guys.
Only where the devil is involved.
If you would like to share your opinions on what we just watched or what we're about to watch, if you just want to comment on how Jeremy's right about something, that happens all the time. You can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can send us an email.
Baiting them to just write about how wrong I am. You know that.
I don't know what you're talking about. Our email, theanimebakaclub at gmail.com, or you can leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. It will get back to us. I check that email like 3-4 times a day. because I'm bored. And I would love to hear from you guys. So give us a shout out. We will say hi back. You should. Jeremy got a comment saying he was right. It basically just made his week, guys. He has not stopped talking about it.
It's great.
Literally. Or hit us up on the Twitters. Because Troy loves the Twitters.
I do love the Twitters. I make GIF your flirting style tweets. I
still was trying to understand what that Twitter post was that I saw.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's not real.
Other people got it. That's all. We'll catch you guys on the mini-sode next week, and then we'll talk about that word anime that I can't pronounce. Good luck finding it. Let's say goodbye.
Have a good night.
Later.
Sayonara.